Arunachal Pradesh, one of India's 8 northeastern states. It shares its border with Bhutan, Tibet and Myanmar. Much of the land is mountainous, covered by the Himalaya in the north and west and the Patkai hills in the east. The state is also home to countless valleys and rivers, the mightiest being the Siang. The climate of Arunachal Pradesh ranges from alpine to temperate and subtropical, varying with elevation. The state receives heavy rainfall during its monsoon season, making it the perfect home for dense forests and an enormous diversity of plant and animal life. It's a thinly populated state, positioned in the foothills of the Himalaya, just over 1 million people inhabiting an area a little over 83,000 square miles. Much of the Arunachal population live in tribes whose ancestors are believed to have migrated from pre-Buddhist Tibet 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. Oral histories and material culture, including the traditional way of dressing and religious practices, are the strongest indicators of a Tibeto-Burman origin among many of the tribes. This part of India is appropriately known as the Unexplored Paradise. Ziro, a town in the lower Subansiri region of Arunachal Pradesh. With a population of just over 12,000, it's a town of mostly rice and bamboo growers. Apa Tani, as the local tribe's called, derives its name from the Apa Tani Plateau, where Ziro sits. Tourists are drawn here to see their distinct lifestyle and bamboo village. Here you'll find ancient customs and traditions still being carried out and untouched by time. This morning, the Apa Tani women have come together to begin a wedding ritual at the home of the bride. Over 100 women from a neighboring village will gather here and begin a long march. They wind their way through the farms and fields carrying baskets full of rice. The bride's basket is topped with bamboo shoots and a pair of eggs. This is part of a fertility ritual that dates back to ancient times. While the bride's mother brings up the rear, the bride herself leads the marchers to her soon-to-be husband's home in this march of the Apa Tanis. On reaching the groom's house, the rice is offloaded into the family granary by the groom's relatives. The rice has not been dehusked and remains farm fresh. As the village women drop their rice and leave, they're given a token of appreciation for their hard work by the groom's family members. Each is given 20 Indian rupees in return, or just under half a US dollar. As they're exhausted after a long early morning trek from the neighboring village, on the way out they're also given a series of snacks. First comes a cup of tea, and then a packet of boiled mitun meat, followed by 1 egg and strip of seasoned dried pork. The pork is often many years old, as is the tradition in the village of Ziro. The next day, the bride brings in rice powder and holy water, which are the essential ingredients for the wedding ceremony. The village elder who oversees the wedding ceremony brings in some chickens, which are then sacrificed as part of the wedding rituals. In all, some 70 or 80 chickens are sacrificed. The blood of the chickens is sprinkled in the doorways of the granary, followed by the principal household. This is believed to bring good luck to the newlyweds. Sacrifices like this are a major part of any marriage in Arunachal. Small structures are created out of bamboo, eggshells and chicken feathers in honor of the marriage. They're hung in front of houses and along village paths to bring good fortune to the newlyweds and their families. The Apa Tani practice an animist religion called Donyi Polo, believing in the sun and the moon. When they make sacrifices, they oftentimes read the entrails of the once alive animal to know their fortunes. Nothing is wasted, and all parts are either consumed or used in a variety of ways. The ritual sacrifice of a pig also occurs to celebrate a marriage. It's cooked over a fire in advance of the final day. Chunks of the pig's meat are first laid out to dry, and then cut and roasted directly over the open fire. While other parts are boiled, no spices or oil are used in the cooking, apart from salt and the natural fat of the pork. Pork is thus obviously the central part of any feast, and is accompanied by bamboo and boiled rice. Pork forms an integral part of the Apa Tani diet, and the older the pork, the better, as many families preserve vintage pork not only for future consumption, but as a sort of currency for gifting at important festivals, such as Miyoko in spring. While the men are tending to the meal, you can find the women inside having a bit of a party. Young and old are each given a bottle of whiskey which is tied with a string and worn around the neck as a pendant. After all, a wedding is a cause for celebration, with singing and dancing. However, there are some dances that only the women are allowed to partake in. Next comes the big afternoon feast that will mark the end of the wedding. The meal consists of the traditional rice and pork. And of course, what is an Apa Tani wedding without their specialty rice beer called apong? After the wedding, a garbage collector comes to buy all the used bottles of alcohol to recycle them. It's a simple job, but a necessity, as village folk take pride in keeping their village clean. The Apa Tani people are easily distinguished from the other tribes in the region. The women are fairly recognizable by their facial tattoos and nose plugs made of cane. The tattoo on the chin is meant to mimic a beard. The practice is believed to have started to make the Apa Tani women less attractive to invading men from tribes from across the border, as they were once known as the most beautiful of all the Arunachal tribes. As it appears, this tradition will remain in the past, as the younger generation does not ascribe to it. Beads are also a major visual identification tool, as the Apa Tanis often wear certain light blue ceramic beads that resemble turquoise. Relying on agriculture for survival and trade, the Apa Tanis developed methods of growth and land preservation for their rice and bamboo fields. Like many Asian countries, the Apa Tani are also known for their sustainable rice cultivation methods. However, long before conservation and sustainable agricultural practices became fashionable around the world, and especially in the West, the Apa Tanis were already practicing the ultimate form of sustainability. The rice fields are supported by an intricate irrigation system from the springs around the valley of Ziro. A single channel of water manages to irrigate dozens of stepped fields. separated by just a few vertical inches, allowing the water to irrigate one field and subsequently flow to a lower one, and in the process cover a wide swathe of cultivation. Another major crop for the tribe is bamboo. Unique to the Apa Tani are the simple and sturdy bamboo houses they live in. Ziro village comprises of rows of bamboo houses that together make the largest bamboo village in the world, and one where almost every house looks alike. Perhaps this is a subtle message in social leveling. Bamboo is a most versatile resource. It's greatly valued among the Apa Tani people. Almost every family has its own nursery of bamboo plants, where they grow a unique species that was imported from Central Asia centuries ago. Bamboo is used not only for building, but also for cooking, eating, and basket making. By growing their own bamboo in private reserves, the Apa Tani are able to quickly harvest bamboo when required for construction, or in the rare event that a fire guts a portion of their village. This practice was designed so as not to destroy their local forests. It seems the Apa Tani may have an important message in sustainable agriculture and environment-friendly practices for the rest of the world. Either way, the Apa Tani have made rice and bamboo an essential part of their lives, in consumption and trade. Much like their look and their cash crop, the Apa Tani's games can be just as unusual, to say the least. Rat hunts are another curious part of Apa Tani life. The entire process is a community affair, with all the young males joining into the group effort. Rats are smoked out of their underground homes, captured and killed. On the occasion that a fleeing rat manages to bite one of the hunters and draw blood, a chunk of the rat's hair is applied to the injured finger, in what appears to be a tribal remedy. The day's catch is then carefully and lovingly stashed away in a carry bag. Later, the rats are skewered and roasted over a small spit, and the community partakes of their evening snack. A group of Apa Tani hunters sets out into the thick forests above Pasighat in search of a variety of possible quarries. Armed with machetes and muzzle-loading guns, the men have shot a macaque. Any Arunachali male will tell you that hunting and cooking over an open fire is one of their favorite pastimes. They proceed to cook within the forest over an impromptu campfire. The meat is cooked using hollow bamboos and plantain leaves. Of course, the remaining skull and bones make for a grisly sight. Next day, the men have scored even bigger. A large male wild boar has been killed. Despite it weighing more than 100 kilograms, one of the hunters manages to carry it back to the forest camp. This will provide them with enough meat for the rest of the hunt, and for some to take back home to their families. They cook the boar's meat over a slow fire and make bamboo baskets to carry the remaining meat back to their village, lining the basket with wild banana leaves. Of course, nothing accompanies a good pork-filled home meal better than some local brew to go with it. No evening meal or celebration in Arunachal is complete without the customary rice beer, apong. Here it's the women that are the brewmasters. Women sit together to knead a combination of rice and ash. The resulting mixture is placed to cook over a slow fire. Of course, no one would miss the opportunity of a slow fire, so they'll take advantage and add pork to the upper layer of rice and beer as well. Yeast is then added to accelerate the process of fermentation. To test a small sample, they add warm water from atop. The final product is filtered through the admixture, and the final liquid is the apong itself. Being a culture that's based on the oral telling of their history, the apong provides the right motivation to do so. Community meetings are popular and a necessity among the Arunachalis. Whether it's a grievance being voiced or mindless chatter among friends, the bonfire communion is a way of telling history for the Arunachalis. Moving several hundred kilometers west of Ziro village, one reaches the lovely town of Tawang. That is, if you happen to be at an elevation of 10,000 feet. With just over 4,000 people living in Tawang, 97% of them are Monpas and practice Tibetan Buddhism. Here, tucked away in the mountains, you'll find India's biggest monastery, the Tawang Monastery. Buddhism in Tawang dates back to the 11th century and has been influenced by a variety of missionaries and sects ever since. Today, most Monpas belong to the Gelugpa sect. Tawang was part of Tibet until the McMahon Line was drawn in 1914 in an effort to define India's borders. The area thus retains many similarities in culture and religion to Tibet. Monpas speak 6 sub-dialects of a language that derived from Tibetan. Though they use the Tibetan script, the Monpa languages are mutually unintelligible from Tibetan. The use of prayer flags indicates a tie to Buddhist culture. Clusters of flags can be seen in the mountainsides of Tawang. They're placed there after a death with one flag for each year in the life of the deceased. Prayer flags are believed to have origins in the pre-Buddhist Bon religion and are traditionally woodblock printed with texts and images. The flags are hung not to carry prayers to gods, but to spread goodwill and compassion to benefit all, and are dyed in 5 colors to represent the elements. Prayer wheels, like prayer flags, are also part of Tibetan culture and are directly linked to the Buddhist religion. Prayer wheels can be found all over Tawang. Prayers or mantras are written on the outside of the wheels, and when turned are a physical representation of reciting the prayer. The mantra most commonly found on prayer wheels, Om Mani Padme is meant to steer the mind towards enlightenment energies. Perhaps this is what sustains the monks in their monastic studies and meditations. The town of Tawang is most famous for the beautiful Tawang Monastery. The monastery was built in 1681 in accordance with the wishes of the 5th Dalai Lama. It's the largest monastery in India and is currently home to about 450 monks. One of the most awe-inspiring parts of a visit to the monastery is entering its Grand Assembly Hall. The altar occupies the entire northern side of the hall, where the 27-foot-tall statue of Lord Buddha sits. It's in this hall that monks gather for prayer and dining. The monastery has been a cornerstone of Monpa life for centuries. Young monks here receive a traditional monastic education, as well as a standard education in subjects such as mathematics, Hindi, and English. Besides study, prayer, and meditation, monks, young and old, are also responsible for leading some of the town's religious festivals and celebrations. Losar, the Tibetan New Year, takes place at the end of February or early March for 15 straight days. Parades, music, and colorful costumes come out in full glory during this time, which is also a great time to visit Tawang. The Monpa people, influenced by Tibetan Buddhism combined with their unique tribal and spiritual identity, have made this tiny corner of India a world of their own. Outside of Ziro and Tawang, much of Arunachal Pradesh remains relatively unexplored by the outside world. With its rich and diverse tribal cultures, it's a unique face of India. As globalization expands its reach into India's far eastern state, the tribes of Arunachal Pradesh have become less and less isolated. However, despite a shift in cultural practices towards a more modern lifestyle, Arunachal still remains rooted in its traditional religious and cultural ways, and its people continue to celebrate its heritage. No matter where you are in Arunachal Pradesh, one will see how fairs and festivals have become an essential part of their culture. Full of dancing and singing, tribes have different dances, be it the Buddhist dance, drama, or the colorful swinging of the tribes on the Apa Tani Plateau. The Arunachalis have a very low stress level in their lives. It's their spirit that can be seen in their unique song and dance. Arunachalis seem to already be where the rest of the world wants to get to, a group of communities that live close together in happy isolation from the rest of the world, with little or no antagonism, leading self-sufficient, healthy and balanced lives.